The second part of this is going to be getting the RCA and the speed wire up along this same side and into the dash. Naturally, that'll be just as fun. Not really. Speaker wires and RCA are run the same way up that side and are waiting right there to be ran the rest of the way. With that taken care of, we got a lot of parts that are chilling out on our blanket here, and they don't need to be now that the wires ran. I'm gonna put some of the car back together that can go back together just to free up some space in the install bay. Back of the car is back together and looking fabulous. We have the box sitting in place. This top also has to go back in. The box sits perfectly between that whole area. We're gonna wait, of course, till we're done because we have to tune this first. But with the back panel back in, you can see how the idea of the wire coming up and just disappearing worked out pretty well. This side of the car is fully back together. Fernando is just buttoning up the fuse underneath the hood. And what we got left is this hole in the dash here and getting these wires into said hole. We've already done the dash kit, but we haven't done anything yet with the wiring, and we need to get this wired up to our Kenwood harness. And also we need to get that dash piece out there. That's where that wire is going to run up in, and that's also where we're going to grab our accessory power for the radio. It's hidden right in there. There's a pink wire which is ignition, and there's a brown wire that's an accessory. We're going to go for the accessory and not the ignition. Now it seems subtle, but there is a difference between the two. Ignition is through crank, accessory shuts off through crank. We'll grab our wire there, we'll put a fuse on it there too, but let's head back over to the bench and we'll talk about the harness and get that all squared away. Now earlier we ran a tone through the speakers to test them to see if they went up behind the radio. That was these wires here. We've ran speed wire out of the Kenwood amplifier, and that is going to be coming up front to these wires. What I like to do is drop in a remote turn on to these and then separate them off into their own bundle. Like this, so now the speed wire will just attach to here. Then I will run it up this side with these wires and connect it to my Kenwood plug. We also said earlier that this car does not have an accessory. If it doesn't have it, it comes out of the harness. That way there's no confusion later. Because the harness will need an accessory somewhere, I'm going to group that in just like the remote turn on with these wires and tape those off by themselves as well. For the accessory connection, we're going to use our bullet connectors that we typically use for our speakers, and you have a female end and a male end. The female end has to go towards the car because that's the one that's going to have power on it, and as you can see, it's fully insulated. The male end is going to connect to our harness here because it is not fully insulated, and the reason for that is if we disconnect this for whatever reason and pull out this harness, if it were to have this end on it and tap to any of that metal that's in the dash, it would blow our fuse. This way we're totally secure. Some red heat shrink on it so we know what wire it is. On the Kenwood harness of our 8 speaker wires that we won't be using, a stereo control wire that we won't be using, which is the blue with a yellow stripe, don't get it confused for blue with white, and a brown wire which is a cellular phone mute. None of these wires are going to be used in this installation. We'll isolate those off, cap them off. We don't want to leave them just like this in the dash. As you saw earlier, there is a lot of metal in that dash that these can touch and bad things could happen. That leaves us just 4 wires on this side, a yellow, a black, a red, and a blue with a white stripe. Black is ground, yellow is constant 12 volts, red as accessory, and blue is remote turn on. Those wires will get connected to these wires, and we can get this harness into the car so we can wire up our speed wire. And after a couple minutes with a soldering gun, we have our harness complete. These are all shielded, butt connected, and zip tied into a bundle. This is ready to get attached to the speed wire. I'm gonna put a couple zip ties on here to finish this off so this just isn't flying around in the dash, going crazy. The next assignment I need to do is this guy. This is a fuse holder that is going to connect to the accessory wire that we're gonna be running. I just need to get it prepped and ready for Fernando. He's hanging out down in the dash right now, and it's all set. I'm gonna hand this over to him. We have our fuse in place. We have about 18 inches of accessory wire, which should be plenty. This side is gonna tap into the car. This side will run up behind our radio. We'll wait to put the end on it just in case we need this extra amount. All right, so that's some kind of accessory. Start the car. Perfect. So when he started the car, the voltage dipped away. That's what we want. It's that big brown wire down in there. We'll tap our fuse into that, run it the short distance up to here, and our radio will turn on and off with the key. What are we doing, you might ask? Well, everything is running to the dash. We have the accessory hooked up, we have the remote hooked up, and before we connect the speakers behind the radio, it makes sense to do our distortion detecting right now. Back at the amplifier, as you saw, the wires are really tight, and to unscrew them would be really hard. In lieu of that, just don't connect them behind the radio. Do your DD1 now, or your distortion detecting, or your oscilloscope, whatever it is you're gonna do, before you connect the wires up behind the radio, because you don't want to have them connected to do your distortion detecting. You don't play a 0 dB, 1000 hertz test tone, or 40 hertz test tone through your speakers. You'll blow them. Playing the 1000 hertz 0 dB track first, and as you can see, we're getting distortion, we're getting signal. Start turning it down one at a time. Oh, right there. Where you at?
Oh wow, 34.
34 it is. Next, we're gonna play a 0 dB 40 hertz test tone and check the subwoofer output. We're gonna leave the volume at 34. And we have no distortion, so we'll just leave the volume at 34. Play a -5 dB 1000 hertz test track and set the gains for the front and rear. As we slowly turn it up, we get distortion. We'll turn it back down until the red light goes away. Red light goes away. All right, there's the front. All right, we'll turn up the rears. For the rears, we're probably going to end up turning them down. We just want to know what the maximum level they can play at. I mean, they're only 12 inches from his head, and as much as he likes rear fill, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want them as loud as the fronts are, so we'll turn them down. But you want to use the distortion detector to figure out what your max level is all the way across, and then you can turn down from there. Next, we're going to set the subwoofer. For that, we're going to turn the subwoofer level up on the radio, and we're going to play a -10 dB track for the sub. That way we'll have plenty of control with it, and it's already set to its maximum output coming from the radio. I personally like a little bit of punchy sound in my bass, so I'm going to be adjusting the bass boost and the gain at the same time, because if you adjust them separately, for example, I'll turn the gain up to where it is perfect and there is no bass boost. Now if I start turning up bass boost, immediately you see distortion kick in. Well, depending on how much bass boost I have, I'm going to need to turn my gain down so that I don't get distortion. I like a little bit more bass boost than that. So it's kind of a sliding scale. As one goes up, the other one should come down, and as one goes down, the other one can come up. You get done and it's too punchy, you could turn the bass boost down, but then turn the gain up if you're that, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting every single inch of possible gain. Yay, let's go higher. Gains are set. Pop the amplifier back down into place. We'll hook up the speaker wires behind, get this center console back together, and we'll do some listening and take you guys along and see how it sounds. And just like expected, these rear speakers are just blowing the back of your head off, so we're gonna turn them things down. That's all you can hear. All right, we'll see what that does. Still a little bit too much. And like most things in life, it's a delicate balance. That's better. Well, the bar we had to hit was sound better than the factory Bose stereo. I think we've gone way above that bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a hard bar to clear for sure. It's all done. This is what the radio looks like in the dash. As you can see, it's nice and flat. If you're planning on keeping that single din in your Corvette because you don't want to go and replace the whole dash, get the short chassis radio without the CD and you can keep it nice and flush looking. The subwoofer is right there behind our heads, which is giving us plenty of bass. What do you think, Fernando?
Pretty good.
You like it?
Yeah.
You happy?
Yeah, it's nice.
Got a nice little full Exelon minus the subwoofer gimmick going on in here.
Right.
As I like to say, end the show.
On to the next one, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you had a wonderful night as always, and we'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.